Hi everyone, my name is Malini and today I'm going to show you how to make Kottu Roti. So before you make Kottu Roti, you have to first make Godamba Roti. So Godamba is wheat, roti is bread, so it's a bread made from wheat, but it's in the shape of a roti. Without further ado, we'll start. So for that we need 300 grams of flour, which I have in here. It's just plain flour. And to that I will add 3/4 teaspoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of oil. I'm going to save the rest for later. And then we need 200 ml of water, but the water has to be warm to hot, so it has to be reasonably warm. So before I start, you have to really knead the flour with your hands, so I'm going to have my gloves on. I'm going to pour the water a little bit at a time. So now I'm going to try and combine all these ingredients. With water, I'm going to put a little bit at a time, only because I want to make sure that the dough that I'm making is of the correct consistency. So it has to be almost like bread dough, but it has to be a little bit softer. So I think I need a little bit more water, which I'm going to add. I don't know if you can see it, but I have to keep on mixing this until it kind of rolls itself into a ball. So I've been kneading it now for about 20 minutes and it looks like that. So I shall put it in the same bowl and I'm going to cling it and set it aside for about 45 minutes and come back to it. In the meantime, I'm going to divert my attention to this most amazing cake that I plan to make. So this cake is going to be so beautiful and it's going to taste really good too. The cake is going to be decorated with coconut and I'm going to try and make designs, hence the reason I'm wearing this saree with these designs. I'm going to try and copy it. But the cake itself is just a fluffy sponge cake. Instead of butter, I'm using oil. So without further ado, 2 egg yolks. So to the egg yolks, I'm going to add 160 grams of sugar. So I've got 4 egg yolks and 160 grams of sugar. So now I beat the 4 egg yolks and the 160 grams of sugar, and you can see the mixture once you beat it really thoroughly. It becomes slightly paler than it started off with. To that I add 130 ml of oil, just vegetable oil, and then 980 ml of warm milk. So now I've whisked everything together. It's very fluffy and frothy at the moment. To this I have to add the flour. So I have 260 grams of flour. I'm going to add it a little bit at a time and then beat it as I do that. So that's the last bit of the flour going in. Finally, I add 1 teaspoon of baking powder and then gently fold it in. Once I've mixed the baking powder, I will set it aside. So if you remember, in that batter mixture here, we haven't used any egg whites. So here's how we combine the egg whites to that cake batter. So I need 8 egg whites. So I already have the 4 egg whites in this bowl. I need another 4. So I'm going to separate the eggs. And 3 to go. I have the 8 egg whites in this bowl. Now I have to wash the prongs because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to get this egg to a lovely fluffy froth. So I have the 8 egg whites here, and to that I'm going to add half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to beat it thoroughly. To these egg whites I add 50 grams of sugar. You could add either caster sugar or granulated sugar, and I've used granulated sugar. So now I'm going to try and get this to a meringue mix, but not very stiff peaks, but slightly softer. So I made the cake batter in 2 different stages. Here I have the dough, which I'm going to combine with the meringue mix that I have. I'm going to do it a little bit at a time. But don't whisk it too much. So all you're trying to do is combine the two. And when you're mixing the two, try not to lose the bubbles in the egg whites. With cake, you have to be very careful. If you lose a little bit of the mixture, then the end product is not going to be what you expect it to be. So it's very important that you use every last drop. Okay. So now I've got a tin prepared there. I have put parchment paper, brushed it with a little bit of butter. Now I'm going to transfer the cake batter into the cake tin and bake it at 160 degrees C for just 20 minutes. So now I transferred it into the baking tin. Make sure that it's bubbles. Now it goes in the oven. The cake is now out of the oven and it's cooling on the table over there. So now it's time to make the crème pâtissier for the filling. So I have 5 egg yolks and 1 egg white going in there. To that I will add 300 grams of sugar. I'm going to beat this thoroughly, and towards the end I'm going to add the cornstarch, and that's going to be about 30 grams of cornstarch. It's beaten well. You can see how it's turned a slightly lighter, paler shade. To that I'm adding 30 grams of cornstarch. So you can see where we're going with this. We are making a custard filling. Pastry cream, or in French, crème pâtissier. So now after I've added the cornstarch, it looks even paler and it has this lovely ribbony consistency. To this I'm going to add 300 ml of milk. As such, and then I will just gently stir it like that before I cook it on a bain-marie. So bain-marie is like a water bath. So I have hot water here steaming away. I'll lower the heat. I can feel the steam coming up, and I'll pop this on top and then beat it ever so gently. So now the cake filling is on top of the bain-marie. So I'm cooking it, and you have to keep beating it because remember there's 5 egg yolks and 1 egg white. We don't want to cook the eggs, it'll start to curdle. The cornstarch is there to make it thick, and we have to make sure that it gently cooks in the steam and it'll be a beautiful ribbony cream. Now the custard's made, or crème pâtissier is made. You can also call it pastry cream. So now it's coming off the bain-marie. That's what it looks like now. So in a separate bowl, I'm going to put 300 ml of double cream, like so, and beat it together until it forms stiff peaks, and then I'll combine the two, and then we're ready to fill the cake. Okay, so now the fresh cream, the double cream that I whipped, is not too soft and it's not too thick, because if you kept on beating it, then it will turn into butter, and we don't want that. So here I've got my cake. I've cut it down the middle so we can sandwich it. I have the crème pâtissier here, and I have the fluffy cream here. What I want to do is have 2 bowls of this mixture. However, the one that sandwiches the cake, I want it to be a slightly thicker consistency so it'll keep its shape and elevate the height of the cake. And then to go on the top, I'm going to make it slightly softer so it's easy and pliable with this spatula knife. So here we go. So this one, I will take maybe 3 scoops of this, put it into one side of the double cream that I whipped. And then of the double cream, I will take maybe 2 spoonfuls and pop it in here. I'm going to whip this together now. So that's nice and soft. It's the consistency I want for the top. So I can put it on top of the cake to decorate it. And then we come to this one, which I want to be slightly ever so thick. And that's perfect for the filling. It's still a little bit warm, so I'm going to try and cool it a bit before we put it on the cake. So to this creme patisserie, I want to add some flavour. To keep with the coconut theme, I'm going to add some coconut flavour. Here I have coconut chocolate coconut mix. It's Whittard's. So I'm going to put 3 spoons of that just to flavour the custard that goes in the middle. I'm not going to use it in the other one that goes on the top, only because I'll be using the powdered coconut for that. So I'm put 3 spoons of that, and I'm mixing it together. So here it is going on top of the second layer, which is going to sandwich the cake. So I'll just use a palette knife just to push it to the corners, like so. So I wanted to keep this cream reasonably thick so that it will kind of give the cake a bit of an elevation as well as hold its shape. And then I will put the top on as such. And now with the other cream. It has this lovely ribbony consistency. So I'm going to try and make a very straight level on the top, like so, and then push the cream all the way to the edges. Yeah, so I've managed to cover all sides of the cake, including the top. So I'm going to leave it to cool for a bit, chill in the fridge. So I've got all my ingredients ready to make Kottu Roti. When you're making several curries like I am doing today, the best trick would be to chop the onions and fry them all in one batch and use them as and when you need for the various curries. So here I have 7 large onions chopped, finely chopped. And to this hot pan, I'm going to add 1 cup of oil. It seems like a lot of oil, but it really isn't, only because it's going in 3 or 4 curries. So I'm going to use these onions for the lamb and the beef and 2 more vegetable curries. So in goes all the onions. That makes your life really, really, really simple rather than fry the onions a bit at a time. So to the 7 whole onions which are chopped and frying in a cup of oil, I'm adding a tablespoon of ginger. And I will also add the curry leaves and the pandan leaves and the lemongrass at the beginning itself. So like that. These leaves are so wonderful. They smell amazing. I don't even want to waste the bark. I want to just add the bark in there if I can. And 2 items that I'm going to leave till the end is the mustard and the garlic, because they start to be bitter if they got burnt if I put it now. So I'm going to leave that to the end. So here I'm going to let these onions fry until they're lovely golden brown and crisp. Now to crispen the onions, you have to add some salt, because salt will draw the water, the moisture out of the onions and make it fry quicker and crisper and lovely and golden brown. And also you have to season the food as you go along. So here we just added some salt to the onions. See, it looks lovely. I'm going to cover it with another pan because the smells will get everywhere otherwise. It's lovely to eat a curry but not very nice to wear it. So here I have the 2 types of meat. I have a kilo of minced lamb and 750 grams of beef. So first, to the minced lamb, I want to add some spices. So about a tablespoon of mint sauce, 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then I have about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, minced ginger, 1 teaspoon, and then garlic, 1 tablespoon. And I shall mix that thoroughly. Now to the beef, I will add a tablespoon of pepper, 1/2 tablespoon of salt, and half a tablespoon of salt goes in the lamb as well. Although I'm only adding pepper and salt for the beef, I will be making a beautiful curry sauce for the meatballs to go in. So for the time being, just the pepper and salt is fine. Now I'm going to mix this thoroughly. So I'm making these minced lamb into balls, and I'm going to lay them on this tray. What I'm trying to do is, before cooking it into a curry, I want to put it in the oven and just shock the outside of it and brown it very quickly. So it's going to go in at 200 C for about 15 minutes, just to brown it from the outside and to shrink the meat so it holds its shape. And then I make a curry sauce and I drop the meatballs into them one at a time. So we have the lamb balls made here. So now I'm going to start on the minced beef. To the minced beef, I've so far put pepper and salt. I'm adding a teaspoon of chili and then half a teaspoon of paprika. A teaspoon of ginger, 2 teaspoons of garlic goes in there as well. So now I will make the meatballs and arrange it just like I've done with the minced lamb. So here I have the minced lamb balls and here I have the minced beef balls. So what I'm going to, they look a bit giant size, but don't worry, they will shrink while cooking. I'm going to put it in the oven at 250, between 200 and 250 C for about 30 minutes, and that's just to shock them so they shrivel and they hold its shape and brown from the outside. The rest of the cooking is going to be done on the hob. So here it goes. And now we can check on our onions, which have been frying now for about 20 minutes. And they are lovely and golden brown, as you can see it. And it's quite soft to the touch. So I'm going to be using this mixture of onions, pandan leaves, curry leaves. So I'm adding about half a tablespoon of mustard, half a teaspoon of cumin seeds, and quarter of a teaspoon of caraway seeds. I would add a little bit more of the cinnamon that gives an amazing fragrance, and I still haven't added the garlic, so I'm going to allow this to fry for about half a minute and then add the garlic last. And so finally I'm adding 2 tablespoons of minced garlic into this. Because it's minced and because it's something that burns very quickly, I'm putting it in at the end. So now this fried onion mixture is actually going to be used for 5 different curries. I'm going to split them equally. So to make the curry base, the sauce of the curry, I'm going to use tin tomato, 1 tin into this pan in which I'm going to cook the beef, and 1 into this pan into which I'm going to cook the lamb meatballs. So that I shall leave it to cook for about 20 minutes, and the meatballs are in the oven just getting roasted on the outside. Once the sauces become hot and bubbly, then I'll transfer the meatballs into the curry, cover it and cook for a further 20 minutes. So I've diced the pumpkin, butternut squash rather, and I'll add some salt to it and cook it for about 20 minutes and then add some curry powder. So I've just washed the sliced aubergine and I'm going to put that into the second pan, which has the fried onions, and then I'm going to cook that with a little bit of cream. The cream would remove the bitterness from the aubergine. These are baby aubergines, and I'll cook that for about 20 minutes as well. I have my curry base for the meatballs here. So far I've only added the chopped tomatoes, so that's what it looks like at the moment. So to that I have 2 jars of different types of curry paste, which it's very easy. You don't have to grind your own spices. It comes in a jar. I'm going to use the tikka masala for the lamb and then the madras spice paste for the beef. So I'm using a tablespoon of each and then a tablespoon of the tikka masala into the other pan. I'll stir it, and now the curry base is ready to receive the meatballs. So this curry sauce is now ready. To that I will add 1 cup of water each, like so. I'll add 3/4 cups of single cream to make it nice and luscious into each. And now I'll bring that to a boil, like so. So I'm going to take one at a time over here and put the meatballs into it. So the meatball curries are having its last 10 minutes on the hob. I'm going to add the mint to the lamb meatballs, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg into the beef meatballs. It'll cook for 15 minutes and then they're done. So finally we come to the pièce de résistance, which is the Kottu Roti, which is going to eventually make our Kottu Roti. So this is what it looks like at the moment. So it's sat in the fridge for a couple of hours. It's quite sticky, so I take some oil in my hands and then just rub it on the outside. We don't want to make it into a greasy roti. We want it to be nice and healthy. And then I'm going to try and knead it a little bit more, although I've done it already a few times. Just going to knead it because when we stretch this to make the Kottu Roti, it has to be really pliable and really stretchy. So it's important to get that gluten working. So all you have to do is just hold it, pull. I'm going to continue to do this for about 10 minutes. So the butternut squash curry, it's simply been just cooking in the onion mixture that I had at the beginning. Likewise, the aubergine, baby aubergines have been doing the same. So now they're ready to come off the hob and to be taken to the table. I've just stretched these Kottu Rotis onto the table and now they're going into very hot pans. You have to cook it on both sides very quickly. So while that's happening, I've got 4 eggs, whole eggs, in this bowl. I'm going to beat it and just add some salt to flavor it. For 4 eggs, maybe about 3/4 teaspoon of salt. So we keep this separately here. So when you make your Kottu Roti, you don't necessarily put whole eggs onto it. So you would actually pour just about that much of egg to make the egg kottu. So when it cooks, you'll see it turns a slightly different color. And it roughly takes about 2 minutes aside. And this one's nearly ready, so I'm going to try and flip this. Mind you, this is all done by hand, even in the shops there. So you just have to have hands made of asbestos really. So that's flipped. This one still needs a couple more minutes. So that one needs about a minute on this side. Then I will take it off the flame and put it onto a plate. So I'm going to show you how it's actually rolled out. So you use the ball of your palm. First you just touch your fingers in oil, just the top, and then you just go round and round and round. Start from the center, work your way to the edges, and then just stretch them. Try and get them to a rectangular shape, so it's easy for you to pour the egg mixture in the middle. And you place it in a very hot pan and cook for 2 minutes, a minute on each side. So here I'm making the base for the Kottu Roti. So we have some cherry tomatoes here and some large tomatoes which I've chopped. Cherry tomatoes I'll chop in halves because they cook very quickly. And here I have some curry leaves and some pandan leaves. That's what gives the authentic flavor of Kottu Roti. And I have my 2 pans still on the hob where I made the Kottu Roti. So this is not, at the moment they're called Kottu Roti, they're the whole rotis. So Kottu means chop. Roti means this bread. So godamba roti means wheat bread made from wheat. And at the moment these are godamba rotis. So once I chop them, that's when it becomes kottu. So when you make kottu roti, you have to make a base for it. So I'm going to pour some oil in this pan, and I have some grated carrots and I have some finely cut leeks, which I'm going to fry in these pans, and add the tomato and then chop the kottu, put it in there. Once the leeks are cooked, you know it because it turns a slightly pale yellow. At the moment it's pale green. So I will put half and half. So I mean, kottu roti is still quite healthy because you're ending up with quite a bit of vegetables. I mean, carrots and leeks. And I'm going to let this fry away. And before I start frying, I'm going to add the curry leaves and some pandan leaves. Curry leaves and pandan leaves there. That's karapincha and rampa. And I shall start frying it now. Once the leeks turn pale green, I'm going to stop and add the tomatoes to it, and then I'm going to chop the kottu roti. I can see it's turning a pale color now, so I'm going to add some salt, so 1.25 teaspoons of salt. I will also add the chopped tomatoes. The reason I'm cooking it in 2 pots is because I'm going to add some green chilies into one for those of you who would love some heat of chili. I'm going to put one into this pan, but leave it out in the other pan. And now I'm going to show you how to chop the roti itself. So if you were in Sri Lanka and you order kottu roti in a restaurant, they'll have these large blades with handles and they go chop away at it, and hence the name kottu roti. But here I'm going to roll it up and just use a knife to ever so thinly slice them. And another trick, I don't know if you've come across paratha bread. Parathas are made in a very similar way. So you make the dough just like you make for godamba roti, but I think you can add an egg to it just to combine the bread mixture. And then the easy trick is you buy the paratha from the shop, which you can find frozen, and then you defrost it, you chop them fine like this, and you can make your kottu roti. So you skip one step of actually making the godamba roti. But I think the fun in making kottu roti is actually making the godamba roti yourself. And I find that very exhilarating, that you sort of achieve something that's not very easy. And I love cooking anyway, and I'm very happy to teach you the little tricks of the trade. And here's one step that you can absolutely miss, which is putting some butter into it. I mean, the kottu rotis are very lean, and if you want to make flavoursome food, you have to add some butter to it. But however, if you don't add the butter, it's still perfectly fine. So this is about 50 grams of butter going into each one of them, like so. And when the butter is melted, which it will do very soon, I shall now add the kottu roti. And then just really combine everything together for about 2 minutes, stirring it throughout, and it will be ready. The vegetables are now cooked, so I've put the kottu roti. I'm just going to keep turning this until everything is combined together, cooked together, and then what you can do, what most people do, is add another egg into this. But I'm going to skip that because I put egg into every single one of my kottu except one. So this is fine. So now it's all coming together. This one is the one which doesn't have the chili. This is good for kids. I once made kottu roti for one of my friends and she was like, where's the chili? Because she really liked the chili. So if you ever travel to Sri Lanka, do make sure that you order kottu roti from any shop, any restaurant, any hotel. They all sell this. And you would really be wanting to have more and more, because it's one of the most delicious, delectable Sri Lankan street food. I must say this is street food, but it's sold everywhere and it's lovely. You have to try it. Even if you don't travel to Sri Lanka and you don't order it, you can make it yourself. It's very simple. And what most people would do at this point also is they take some gravy from the curries they make and add it to it. But I'm going to leave it out, so anyone who wants the curries can add it. Anyone who wants to eat this plain can eat it plain. And here I've got my cake, which has the arrowleaf flowers and a lotus flower, which I've attempted. Everything on this cake is edible, including the glittery pebbles and the glittery beads. And then it's very pretty, and get your kids involved in decorating flowers, because it's a really fun thing to do. And that's a coconut flower with fluffy sponge in the middle, and it's sandwiched with coconut icing, which is creme patissier icing. So if you've enjoyed watching me cook and you've taken away some hints and tips as to how to make your own Kottu Roti, I would really love for you to try it at home. And also, I would love for you to donate to the NHS. The link is below. It's a generic link which I got from the internet. And even if it's £1, it's great. It's every drop of water that makes a mighty ocean. So £1 is fine. Give as much as you can, give what you can, but definitely give. And thank you for watching. Bye-bye. If you have friends coming to your house, make this Kottu Roti and they'll be very impressed, and they will love you for it. So here's the Kottu Roti. This is how you will be serving. That's the one with the chilies, and just the gravy, because you do need to soak up all this Kottu Roti. So 2 meatballs per person just to start with, and then they can take more if they want. So there's a lamb with mint. And then here we have the vegetables which I made. That's the butternut squash. And then the baby aubergine. And that's it.